Welcome everyone to what has become our Listen, Learn, and Reflect event today as part of Native American Heritage Month. Thank you all. I've seen many faces who joined us for our earlier events this week. Thank you all for being here with us and for joining us today. We're going to watch a couple videos together as we continue to learn about and celebrate Native American heritage. And then we're going to devote the majority of our time today to being able to reflect. And that can be on anything that you've been learning personally, things that have moved you, inspired, or come up for you during our other events this week, or kind of just anything that you're feeling called to share. I hope to hear from lots of different voices today. If you are comfortable, you can either speak. We're going to Rob's going to help us monitor raising hands, and you can also use the chat. And just a reminder that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, our intention is to always hold these spaces as beginners, knowing that we're all at different points in our learning as we dive into many different topics, and just knowing that we come from a place of respect and learning whenever we are diving into topics like this, and that we hold all of each other in that place. So knowing that, it's okay to be a beginner and to ask questions and to not understand something, as long as we're coming from a place of respect and honor. So with that, we have about 20 minutes of there's 4 different videos. It's going to take about 20 minutes. We're just going to kind of let them roll and take that all in and be able to kind of let it wash over us. And then we're going to have some time to reflect after that. I just want to check. I know Nicole might not be able to be here the whole time with us. Just give her a second to say if she has anything to say before we start the videos.
Hi, Janelle. Thank you. I just wanted to say that everything that we've watched in the last couple of days has been very informative to me. With the painter and Rhonda's niece, I learned a lot of information that I guess I kind of knew was going on. But I want to say I didn't know it was still actively going on. The main thing that was intriguing to me was the connection with human trafficking in the pipeline, especially since last year we had watched the Awake video and they were talking about pipeline and how is it affecting their environment. But I didn't also think about the correlation with human trafficking on that as well. So I will be doing my research. The Native American Indigenous people have gained an ally with me, and I'm just excited to learn more information. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Rob, you can go ahead and start those videos. And Nicole, thanks for kind of being a great example of the type of sharing we're going to be doing after these videos close. And I hope that you all, if you want to have like a pen nearby or paper, you want to jot some thoughts down, that's fine too. If not, like I said, just kind of let all this wash over you, and we'll come back together shortly.
Our people have prophecies of the time that we live in now. And there is a long and beautiful history of what we call the 7 fires prophecies. These prophecies have also become reality. So it's an interesting space where prophecy and history converging right here, right now. And it's said that in the time of the first fire, our people all lived together on the eastern shore with our Wabanaki relatives. But big changes were coming to Turtle Island when those sails were coming toward us. And so the people decided that in order to keep the sacred fire alive, the people had to separate. And so our Wabanaki relatives stayed on the Atlantic coast as the guardians of the Eastern Door. And the others, the people who became our Anishinaabe people, agreed to move to the west to safeguard the sacred fire, and that they would move to the west until they came to the Great Lakes, the place where the food grows on the water, our manomen, our wild rice. And in the history describes what happened in each of those fires, which refers to a historical era where our people lived. It refers to the time when people would be removed from their land. It refers to the time when different spirituality would be imposed upon our people and nearly break the spiritual traditions of our people. We know that came to pass. It talks about the time when traditional knowledge would become fragmented and scattered all over the land. It talks about when the ceremonies would be lost, when the language would be lost, when our children would be taken from us. All of this we know has happened. And it also says that there will come a time when you can no longer dip your cup into the stream and drink. There will come a time when the air is too thick and choking to breathe. And there will even come a time when the plants and animals will begin to turn their faces away from us. And we know that this has come to pass as we hang on the precipice of climate chaos and the age of the sixth extinction. We know we've come to that place. But the prophecies also say there will come a time after all this has happened, all this loss, all these wounds to Mother Earth and to the people, that all the world's people together, all four colors of man, will come together and there will be a fork in the road. And in my imagination, one of those paths is beautiful and dewy and green and grassy, and you want to walk barefoot there. And the other path is burnt to a crisp. It's nothing but cinders. It would cut your feet. And we stand there at a time of choice in the history of humanity and the history of Mother Earth as well. And we know what path we want to choose. We all want to barefoot. But what the prophecy tells us is that that is not our work. Here in the time of the seventh fire people might look longingly at that green path. We can't walk it yet. We have instead to turn back along the ancestors' path and pick up that which was left for us. Pick up the fragments of language. Pick up the ceremonies. Pick up the healing stories. Pick up the worldview that says that we are givers to the world. Pick up the worldview that says the world is sacred. When we pick those things up and put them in our bundles, only then can we go and walk that green path. We have to remember. We have to remember who we are. Remember how to be in loving relationship with the earth that loves us. And then when we know that, then we can walk down that green path, all of us together. And it's said that at the end of that green path, that spiritual path that sets aside materiality and the thinking that we live only in a world made of stuff, not a world made of beings, sacred beings. But then when we walk that green path, at the end, we can light the eighth fire, the eighth and final fire.
Janelle, you want us to keep running through, or do you want to take a little break to have a little discussion?
We can keep going through.
Hello, my name is Keeman Palau. I am half Diné and half Tongan.
My name is Marianne Buggs. I'm an enrolled member of the Caddo tribe, and I'm also Cheyenne Arapaho.
I'm Brandy Lewis, and I'm a
Might need to turn up the volume.
Silas Cleveland. I'm an Eastern Shoshone Native American from the Wind River Indian Reservation here in Wyoming.
Today I'm going to be answering your questions about Native Americans.
Why do people call Native Americans Indians?
Well, that's because Christopher Columbus was lost.
If you don't know who he is, that's probably a good thing.
He thought he was in India, and so he called the people that he encountered Indians.
I'm not Indian, I'm not from India, so don't call me Indian, please. Thank you.
Do indigenous tribes still exist?
Yes, absolutely. There are plenty of tribes out there still today. However, there are many that are not.
There are over 500 unique and different tribes in the United States.
But did you know there are over 300 tribes that are not yet federally recognized? That is over 800 tribes on Turtle Island, or what is now the continental US, that are here.
Each one has their own language. Each one has their own customs. I look forward to a time when everybody understands what being Native American means. What do Native Americans prefer to be called? There are a couple of answers to this.
Because every Native person is going to have a different response.
For myself personally, I grew up being called American Indian. I think it's an individual choice. Not everybody who's Native American has the same answer. I prefer Native American.
I have dear friends that they don't like being called Indian. Indian to me, you're probably from India.
I like to be referred to as being Choctaw. That's what I am. I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation. I'm a Choctaw woman.
There's so many terms: Aboriginal, First Nations, Native American, Native, Indigenous. It's a preference. I know that I personally like to be called Indigenous. I think it's the best term to describe me and my ancestors as the original people of this land.
What do Native Americans believe in? Well, if I was joking, I would say fry bread. But I think that you're referring to like a spiritual beliefs.
And that's going to vary tribe to tribe, individual to individual.
In general, we believe that we are responsible for this land, that we were placed in this country to take care of it. I personally feel a deep connection to this land and all the creatures and things that are on it.
Because of colonization, forced conversion on my people, we were not allowed to practice our way of life. We were not allowed to speak our language. It was deemed evil, savage, not of God. And if we were to do so, we were either beaten, whipped, or killed. So my people had to conform. We had to adapt in order to survive, which is sad. And over time, that religion was instilled. You have natives that are Catholic, you have natives that are Christian, and you have natives that are neither, that are reconnecting, trying to backtrack and learn about our way of life, about our beliefs before they were taken from us.
Is Native American an ethnicity?
Yes, I would say so. Although we speak different languages and we're not all the same, we have that shared appreciation and thankfulness for everything that surrounds us.
I believe that it is an ethnicity. I believe that it is a culture. Native Americans have a rich and vibrant and wonderful culture, no matter what tribe they are.
Do Native Americans celebrate Thanksgiving? And I think that's, a preference that Native people can make for themselves.
I celebrate Thanksgiving because that's how I was raised. I think it's a time in general just to be thankful about the life that we have here, but there are many Native Americans who do not celebrate it.
I like the idea of Thanksgiving. I'm all for being thankful, giving back, and being with friends and family. However, that is romanticized. Thanksgiving is much, much more than that. It is a deep-rooted pain and hurt and story of colonization, massacre, lies. So for me and my family, it is a day of mourning.
My family, we don't always do the typical quintessential Thanksgiving dinner. I actually try to do some traditional dishes and incorporate those in our meals and use it as a time for education.
So for me, it's still a gathering with family. Definitely not forgetting, keeping the ancestors in mind. Always thinking about that, thinking about what they had to go through.
What is a reservation?
It's kind of a sad word, really, when I think about reservation.
A reservation is an area that Native Americans were technically given, which, I mean, they were our lands to begin with.
The government, the United States, were greedy and lustful for oil, property, and gold, and we were in the way. So they forced us to relocate onto tiny patches of land so far from what was home for us, hoping that we would slowly die off.
Today, there are many reservations where there is no running water, where the population is almost entirely in poverty, and where sickness and other things exist that cause harm to our people. The reservation system in America is a tragedy, actually. While there is a rich culture and people, it is a stark reminder of how this country has mistreated the Native American population. I hope that we continue to make strides in improving the reservation system. And I invite everybody to look up or Google Native American reservations near me and visit one or find out more about one.
Well, I really enjoyed these questions. I'm happy that people are still Googling us. People are still curious.
I think I would say to non-native people, spend more time asking questions and listening.
I welcome each and every opportunity that comes along to speak about my people because I'm very proud of who I am and what my people represent.
I hope you learned something new today. I hope I answered some of your questions.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Wind River Indian Reservation, to the Eastern Shoshone, my tribe, and the Northern Arapaho who were here too. I love you all and have a blessed day.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody. We have one more video that we're going to actually save. Rob and I decided last minute, we're going to actually close with the last video, the Thanksgiving address, and make some space for reflection now. And so just as a reminder, these reflections can be about what you've been learning on your own, can be about the videos that we have watched, can be about the events that we had on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And to let you all know too, that the idea around kind of transitioning today was just originally going to be like watching some videos and talking about them a little bit, but mostly sharing content. And after our event on Tuesday with Nayana, the DEI committee, some of the people that have been really involved in planning this month spoke and decided it would be really important to hear from you all and to give some space to kind of reflect on what we've been learning, knowing that these topics that we're talking about are so important and are so critical in the Indigenous communities that we are honoring this month, and that they can be hard to talk about and hard to hold, and just wanting to kind of create some space and community around that so people can share and unpack together so that you're not feeling kind of like alone in all this learning and unpacking. So I'm going to open up the floor. If anybody wants to share, you can, I think there's a hand raise feature in Zoom, I forget, but you can unmute yourself or raise your hand or type into the chat. Rob's going to help us monitor that, and I will be here as well.
Looks like somebody has their hand raised.
I think Tom has a hand raised.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Janelle. Hey, everybody. Tom out of the Harvard office. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. You know, growing up, the only real exposure in school to first of all, it was always referred to as Native Americans, and we didn't really hear the word Indigenous people, I can remember, until more over the past probably 10 years or so, at least, like, really in the school district, it was always like Native Americans. And we went to I forget where it is, where you can go and they have basically the whole setup where it's like the Pilgrims, I think it's a Plymouth Plantation. And, you were able to be educated on the ways that the Indigenous folks lived off the land and, how important and sacred it was to them. And that was really appreciated at a young age. And then, we read this book, I think it's called When the River Runs Wild. It's about a teacher or about a lady who grew up in the Pepperell area, and it's about the Nashua River and the Nashaway tribe, I think it was called, and the continued pollution that was poured into the Nashua River and what it did to the river and ultimately, the tribes and stuff like that. And, just gave us a good example of, this wasn't our land, right? This was land for the Indigenous people. And something that really stuck out was that Turtle Island phrase that they used, something new to me. I never realized that Native Americans, Indigenous people referred to North America or, Earth as Turtle Island. And if you Google it, it's actually a pretty cool image. It's a good representation. And I just also wanted to say, like, I'm really into American history. And so I do a lot of Audible books. So, the first 6 presidents, right now I'm on John Quincy Adams and leading into Andrew Jackson, and the atrocities that continue to take place after each president to the Indigenous peoples is just terrible. And, I never learned any of that in school, So in order to take the time to read these books, not for the motivation to learn more about Indigenous people, but, learn more about American history. And guess what? Indigenous people are a part of that. And it's just really sad to hear and to learn about all the things that continue to happen. And they're continuing to happen today, just the forced removal. It's really scary. So I'm really glad that, the people who are still part of these tribes and reservations are so proud and are willing to speak up about these issues. And I'm also just grateful to be part of an organization like this that takes the time and, gives them a platform to share the message. So, I just wanted to share that. Really grateful, and I'll share the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Oh, we have another hand raised.
Hi, my name is Waltine Moyes. I'm new to Nunatak and I'm in the Lawrence Lowland area. And what I wanted to say is, like, I greatly appreciate information sessions like this, because I feel as people where every day we're so busy with our daily activities, our own lives, our own families, and we forget others and we forget the history. It's like, yes, we know there was genocide and all these other things that happened to the Native Americans, to Indigenous people, but then it gets put back in the back of our minds and we forget about it and we move on with our daily lives. So the opportunity to have these sessions to remind us and to let us know, yet this is still going on with other histories, so that are still repeating, that are still going on. These people, their lives that they've experienced in the past hasn't stopped. These troubles and health issues and genocide and kidnapping and sex trafficking are still going on right now, even though we continue with our daily lives and kind of forget about it. So I really appreciate this platform, be able to be reminded of these things and not forget it, and keep the Indigenous people in our minds as we go through our day-to-day lives.
Thank you for sharing. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable kind of speaking, you can type it in the chat. I can read it out for you.
And while people continue to reflect and decide if they want to share, I do just want to take a moment to really thank Rhonda for all of her not only work that she put in this month to help us organize all this, but also her the grace with which she supported all of us on the DEI committee with our learning, and then our larger community with our learning as well. Rhonda, I'm sure it's not an easy position to feel like you're have to be a one spokesperson in your larger community for an entire nation of people, but we are so grateful to have you and to just have your presence and your amazing spirit with us this month and always. And so I just really want to just hold space for you and thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the rest of the DEI committee and the larger Nanotech community for walking us through this month the way that you did. So thank you.
Looks like George, you have your hand raised as well.
Yes, I do. I really appreciate these monthly panels and videos, etc. And one of the things that I was reminded of within this video was that there are 500 different nations or tribes that have been recognized, but there still remain another 300 that have not been recognized. And it just feels totally upside down to me that a tribe has to be recognized by the government of the United States. So for them to be recognized, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if it's a tribe that exists and now they have to go to the United States government to be recognized, just doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you for sharing, George. I think, Janelle, we can hop back into videos and maybe give a couple more people to reflect, and then maybe have another breakout if people have more to share.
That sounds good. And before we jump back into that next video, the first video that we shared is Robin Wall Kimmerer. If you've been in conversation with me at all this month, I've been referring back to her a lot. She's my one of my favorite authors. She wrote the book Braiding Sweetgrass as well as Gathering Moss. And her work has been really impactful in my life. And I chose that video to share because the story around the seventh fire the moment that we're in right now, that prophecy, you can do some work and do some research more around that. But what I thought was so beautiful and resonant with what we're kind of all doing here together this month is that she talks about the moment that we are in right now, the seventh fire. We're not ready to walk down that green path, even though we can see it or choose between the charred path and the green path. It's actually the job of all of us to turn back and to pick up what the ancestors left for us. And as she so beautifully says, put it in our bundle and use that to inform how we move forward. And I really kind of see what we're doing together this month, and then actually every month, as the DEI committee together, to kind of be looking back and forward simultaneously and saying what do we need in our bundles to move forward in reciprocity with the earth and with honoring all people and all beings. So I just was kind of thinking about that as we go to this next video, that we're just always kind of picking up these pieces. And I loved that vision and kind of just see ourselves in that and see how we fit in. Rhonda, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to discuss probably that second video of the Gather Nation powwows. Probably is one of the biggest powwows in the country. Right. And our family goes out there every year out there in New Mexico. Oh. And that was a northern style dance that you saw that a lot of Plain natives would dance that particular style. And you saw the eagle feathers. And for us to have eagle feathers, it was the highest honor. So I remember when I first got my eagle feather, I think I was probably like 14 years old. And it was a veteran that gave me that eagle feather. And so we look at that eagle feather as a highest honor. When we pray, we believe that the eagle is the bird that's highest to God, is closer to God. And so for us to have eagle feathers, we have to go through the government to get our eagle feathers. So if they see a bird that has died or anything like that, they give those eagles to tribal members or tribes. And we have to have a permit. So every time I travel back and forth from here to North Carolina, I have to carry a permit everywhere I go, because it's a federal offense to have eagle feathers. So it was good to see all those eagle feathers in that particular dance that you saw. And then if you saw that fried bread, I don't know if people saw that, and they put beans on that. It's called fried bread, and it lets you know how we survived when the government gave us cheese and flour. So we took that flour and learned how to make a fried bread. Now this fried bread is so famous throughout Turtle Island, and it's the best thing. It's very a sweet tasting, but it's just lets you know how natives have survived through the limited items that they received. So just wanted to, and again, talk about reservation. The closest reservation I think is, it depends on where you're at. You really have Martha's Vineyard, and I know the Mashpee Wampanoag is trying to get their reservation. So reservation was a negative term in the past. And again, just like fried bread, we're taking something that was negative and using that word that George told me, but reclaim it. So we're reclaiming land and taking something that was negative and making it to a positive, where we can be more successful on our own territory. So I know Mashpee has a little battle to fight to get that land in trust. But another reservation is probably close by is Foxwoods, and Foxwoods is one of the Pequot tribe. And back in the day, it was against the law to even say the word Pequot. So if you ever go to the Pequot reservation, a lot of, to get land in trust sometimes, or even become federal recognized, you almost have to say, what are you going to do? And so Pequot was one of the tribes that never gave up their rights. So when you go to their reservation, it is their law, Pequot law. So it's not Connecticut law, it's Pequot law. Even if you go to the Hamptons, I was in the Hamptons over the Labor Day weekend at the Shinnecock Reservation. And I remember going there as very young, and I always admire when you first go into the reservation of the Hamptons. If you've ever been to Southampton, you really have rich areas over there. But when you go into the reservation of the Shinnecock, it lets you know that you're on Shinnecock Reservation and obey by the Shinnecock law. So, tribes are within a tribe. Nation within a nation. And I know my niece talked about my tribe. My tribe in late 1800s, we had our own university. You couldn't go to school and be educated with everybody. So one of my family members helped build the university. Now it's a UNCP, and it educated all natives who want to have a higher education. And when we got, there's a Lumbee Act, and it states that we will recognize you as a native, but you won't get no benefits. And you didn't really have benefits back in the day, so we was okay with that. But now when we're talking about 2022, we're not able to get Indian health services like other tribes do. We're not able to get Indian child welfare. I was a Indian child welfare director for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So when you have, families and children being taken away and been placed into other homes, other non-native homes, and been taking away their culture, Indian Child Welfare Act is a very important act to have within tribal government, tribal nations. But just one more thing, when it says about Native Americans versus Indians, I know we have so many battles to fight as a Native person, and I'm a person, just know that we're here, know that we're around, and just calling our names and know that we're here. So you can call me Indian, you can call me Native American, call me Indigenous, but just know that I'm still here as a Native. Thank you.
Hey, Rhonda, this is George. That's amazing. I'm very fascinated. You could keep going on and on and on, and I think no one would leave. I have a question. To get an eagle feather, do you have to meet certain expectations?
Yes. You have to be federal recognized to get eagle feathers.
But I mean, when you were handed an eagle feather when you were 14 years old, how did you get that? How come you were chosen?
because I was always involved. I mean, I was always at different powwows. I was North Carolina Native American Youth Princess, and then I was a Miss in North Carolina. So I was a pageant queen when it comes to tribal princess. And so they always saw me at different powwows. It wasn't just my powwow. It was so many other tribal nations powwows that they saw me. And I was always participating, always dancing. And it was a true honor, really true honor to have received that. And the thing about it's so nervous to have that eagle feather, because if you drop it, it's like a fallen warrior. It's a very mourning ceremony. So anytime when I used to dance in the power, my mother would literally put knots in my hair to make sure that eagle feather would not drop. And it never did. But I have seen eagle feathers drop, and the ceremonies that take place just for that one eagle feather, they will have to have veterans that go out there, 4 veterans that do a dance to literally pick up that feather. There's a certain way to pick it up. So having that honor placed upon me was just amazing. One of the most amazing things I ever went through.
Thank you for that. It's just amazingly rich cultural traditions that are just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. If anybody has anything else they want to share, we have one more video and then we can come back together when that one's over as well.
Agwegoaska Druat Wet Nuni, Negon Ligula, the Day Tinolados, Ne Ongwesu Antonia Duha, Negon Ligula, to. Agwegoaska did a Wawe Nuni.
I want to turn up the volume.
You can use the Haji Hanjade. Dano Onegasu, Dano Gojasu, Tony Duha, Negonigula, to. Agwegoaska did the Wawe Nuni, the Tinolados, Ne Ohandesuan, Nuklasu, Dano Thalason. Tony Duha, Negonigula, to. Agwegoaska Drawat Wet Nuni, Negon Ligula, the Day Tinolados, Ne Gunhekwa, Gahi Sua, Uji, Nuat Sua, Tanya Duhak, Neguat Nagula, to.
Agwegoaska and the Dawat Wet Nuni, and Guanago, and then a day to Nevada, Gundelia, Ogalet Sua, and Ojida Ogo, Tony Duck, Neguanago.
The Thanksgiving address is supposed to be done every morning and at the end of the day again, to give thanks every day to those things that are always there, that provide for you and things. Like the earth and the trees and the air, and the wind and the water, all your foods.
Thanks, Rob. I love that video so much. I know we shared a bit about the Thanksgiving address last year, which I thought as we're heading into Thanksgiving week next week, it's just a kind of a good place for us all to be and thinking about what Thanksgiving means to us, and also holding simultaneously what Thanksgiving means to others and to the Indigenous people that we've been honoring this week. And then also just to think about what it means to give thanks. And that's why I love that that video in the Thanksgiving address so much, because I think it's a beautiful example of giving thanks for things that we don't always think about when we talk about giving thanks. They mentioned the sun and the moon and our teachers and all these other beautiful things. So just wanted to kind of have that be our last video to kind of open our minds in that way as we head towards a time of year when we are often talking about giving thanks and what that means, and also thinking about what this upcoming holiday means to different people. So I want to open up the floor one more time for any final reflections. We do have a little bit of time before we close, and then yeah, this will kind of conclude our programming for the week, but I would love to be in conversation with you all as we move forward.
Janelle, I definitely want to say about that last video. It seems like there was I can tell by the dress that that's also part of the East Coast, the Woodland tribes. You saw the purple where we wear our wampum. And so you can see the headdress. You can tell they're from the up there near the Mohawk Reservation, or the Oneida, Tuscarora. They all live together. And for them to start teaching that, part of teaching their language is part of their education, of their school education. And another video you saw, that Choctaw individual that was speaking, I was able to go to the Choctaw Reservation, and when they have their language class, they have these, like what we do, have the big Zoom, and in the local schools, not native school, but just the local schools out there, and they're able to choose if they want to take Spanish, French, or Choctaw. And so they're able to learn Choctaw from their school, and from a person that is at the reservation teaching the language. And so language is so important. It's just so good to see those young people spitting it out. I mean, everybody knows learning the language is very hard at the older you get. So teaching them at a young age is amazing. But thank you for showing that.
Thanks, Rhonda. And that actually brings up something we didn't, something I've been really interested in, and maybe you could speak to a little bit too, something we didn't get into very deeply this month, but that I'd love to kind of plant the seed in everybody's minds, because something I've been exploring a bit. You brought up language, and I know both of our presenters, Alexis and Ayana, mentioned a little bit about the boarding schools, which is another path we can go down that. But I know that separating Indigenous people from their languages was a very intentional thing that colonizers and settlers did. And I recently was listening to a podcast, and it just completely blew my mind, because Indigenous people and Native Americans are so tied to the land that they lived on. She was talking about, and apologies because I forget the name of a tribe, but a certain tribe that lived along a river, and their entire language was oriented around this river. So everything they spoke about was in relation to the river, like different directions and different words that they had for the plants, the animals, the fish, the way that the people were in relationship to the river. And so almost their whole language was tied to this river. And if they were removed from the river, or if because of ecological crisis, something happened to the river, that whole language is lost. Mm-hmm. And so that's one way that language is kind of in jeopardy. And then there's also, as you said, many Native people that have been separated from their language and aren't needing to learn it, in schools, and not necessarily learning it from their lineage or from their families, because it's not spoken as much. So I loved that video as well, because we were hearing from young people speaking in their native language. And I just loved that, it was kind of, we had the words written on the screen, but we were hearing the voices in the language. So just kind of holding space for that, but yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, even with my tribe, when they was moving natives out back in the Indian Removal Act, our tribe, some did leave, some stayed, and we hid in swamps, and we just survival. So you start, even my grandmother raising up, she was like, don't talk about it. You got to go to school, get your education, and don't say anything, So, that generation of just learning how to just be this American way, and Native, was just, was not important, compared to what we're trying to bring it back now. And I don't think a lot of people know there was a second another second removal. My mother was a part of that, where natives, after the World War II, the United States was trying to build back Europe. And so they was trying to say, how can we save this money? So back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, people was being removed, to cities, New York, Baltimore, Charlotte, LA. If you think of Heather Locklear, a lot of people don't know that. My grandmother was a Locklear. So whenever you see that Locklear name, they're native from my territory, from North Carolina. So Heather Locklear grandfather was a part of that removal, and he went to LA. And then a couple of generations later, you got Heather Locklear. So that was almost an act of removal, because Heather wasn't raised around tribal anything. But once in a while, if you hear Heather talk about her past and her people, sometimes she'll mention our tribe.
Thank you. Any other thoughts before we close for today? And also, as always, this is just the beginning, and we want to be in continued conversation around all of this. So please feel free to reach out after, and we can keep talking and keep sharing.
Nothing else in the chat other than highlighting how thankful they are that they've been able to participate in learning about Indigenous culture, and highlighting how excellent our guests have been, and really appreciative of Rhonda sharing her personal story, her personal culture, and a lot of her life with us. So I share that sentiment.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day. Take care, and yeah, we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks, DEI committee.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you so much.